Good afternoon to you. We will now continue with the Constitution. In the last class, we have seen the qualifications and disqualifications of members of Parliament. One of the disqualifications is defection under Anti-Defection Law, Schedule 10. Today, we will further see what is meant by Anti-Defection Law. It's a very important topic. What is meant by defection? Defection means desertion. In political parlance, it is called opportunism, floor crossing, etc. The latest example, as you know, in March 2020, 22 MLAs of Congress defected to BJP and Congress government collapsed. The first defection in the country happened in 1937 when some Muslim League members joined Congress after being elected in the Muslim League tickets. In 1967, Lok Sabha saw a discussion on a private member bill sponsored by Venkata Subbaiah on defection. In February 1968, again, a committee was constituted under Y.B. Chavan to look into the menace of defection. Again in May 1973, 32nd Constitutional Amendment Bill proposing anti-defection law was introduced in Lok Sabha. But the bill lapsed with the dissolution of Lok Sabha in May 1977. Finally, 52nd Amendment Act 1985 was brought by Rajiv Gandhi government, a major achievement of Rajiv Gandhi. In fact, J&K took the initiative and it had an anti-defection law since 1979 onwards. It is not unknown in other countries like USA, Australia, UK and Canada. They have all experienced the phenomena of defection in their earlier time. Nevertheless, none of these countries thought it fit to have a separate provision in the Constitution itself to put a stop to the menace of defection. Nevertheless, India happened to be the first democratic country which have a provision in the Constitution itself to prevent defection from one party to another party. 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1985, which is popularly known as Anti-Defection Law, is effective from 1st to March 1985. This has tried to put a ban on political defections. It amended Article 101, 102, 190 and 191 and added 10th schedule to the Constitution. So, remember, what are the articles amended? 101, 102, these two relate to union. 190 and 191, these relate to state legislatures, and added 10th schedule to the Constitution. The anti-defection law provides the certain important provisions. What are they? An MP or a member of state legislature belonging to a political party shall be disqualified if, number one, he voluntarily gives up the membership of his party, or number two, votes against his party directive, or abstains from voting without prior permission of the party, and his act has not been condoned by the party within 15 days. So, either without permission or his act has not been condoned within 15 days. These are all the two conditions. If he votes against the party directive or if he abstains from voting in both of the cases. Then comes similarly an independent member, which is who did not contest against any political party. Independent member of the House shall stand disqualified if he joins any political party. At the same time, a nominated member of the House becomes disqualified if he joins any political party after the expiry of 6 months from the date on which he takes his seat in the House. What does this imply? This implies that a nominated member can become a member of any political party within 6 months, and he will not be disqualified in the event of such an occurrence. So he can join within 6 months. If he joins after 6 months, then he will lose the membership. Now, if the legislator is disqualified in the above manner, he will lose his seat in the legislature. So, he will lose the seat. On the basis of loss of seat, then the election commission will be informed and they will conduct the by-election. This is the procedure. Now, the provision of anti-defection law shall not apply in certain cases. First we have seen in which cases it applies. Now we are seeing in which cases it does not apply. Number one, in the case of a merger, that is, 2/3 of the members of a party decide to merge with another political party. So, what is the quantum? 2/3. If they merge with another political party, then this anti-defection law provision will not apply. Number one. Number two, if the presiding officer of the House, that is either Speaker or Deputy Speaker or Deputy Chairman, resigns the membership of his party to become a non-partisan, or if he joins after he ceases to hold that post, then it will not attract. So, suppose if the speaker or deputy speaker or deputy chairman want to be neutral, he wants neutral, he wants to show his neutrality to others, to the members of the House. He is free to resign from his party membership, not membership of the House, from party membership in which event, remember, this will not attract the penal provision of the anti-defection law. Nevertheless, remember, this exemption will not be available to any person who defects from the party to which he belonged while holding the speakership and then resigns from office of speaker. First defection, then resigning speaker, it is not allowed. Then, most importantly, 91st Constitutional Amendment Act 2003, a major contribution of Vajpayee government, brought certain very important landmark changes in the parent act of anti-defection law 1985. What are those changes brought by Vajpayee government through 91st Constitutional Amendment Act 2003? Number one, as you know, the original act provided for exemption from disqualification in the case of splits. Exemption from disqualification in the cases of splits. That is, it allowed 1/3 members of the legislative party to leave the party and form another political party on their own without attracting the provisions of disqualification. Suppose, let us say there are 6 members in a political party, and if 2 has left the party and they started a new political party, this will not attract the penal provision of anti-defection law earlier. Now, but this provision of permitting split was deleted, was dispensed with, was taken away by 91st Amendment Act 2003. In other words, the defectors cannot take the protection of split. This is the major change made in the 91st Amendment Act 2003. This act also debars a defector from holding any remunerative political post for the remaining tenure of the legislature unless he is re-elected. You remember, supposing a person, he is a member of the house, member of the parliament, and the ruling party is in problem. Suppose they can give a lollipop to the fellow. I will make you minister. Please join us. So this was, in 1/3. If there are 6 members, 2 members will leave and they will join the ruling party and can save the government. This was prevented. Another penal provision is, if such a defection takes place, the defector cannot become a minister or will not be able to hold any remunerative post till what time? Till the end of the tenure of the house or till he is re-elected. One saving clause is, suppose if he resigns and then gets re-elected, of course, because the people who have elected him is apparently condoned his act. That is the rationale. So if the person who has defected has to resign and he has to recontest and the people have to elect him, in that case he can be given the remunerative post of ministership, etc. So this is the position. So he cannot, the act debars the defector from holding any remunerative political post for the remaining tenure of the legislature until he is re-elected. So the general theory is, if he is re-elected by the people, it means that the people have condoned his defection and people has upheld the decision of the defector to join the new political party. That is kindly note this point. This is a very important point for future. Then, a member from either House of Parliament disqualified on the ground of defection shall also be disqualified from becoming a minister as per Article 75 of the Constitution, which I just now told you. Because Article 75 says that any person who is not a member of either House of Parliament can become a minister. And he should become a member of either House of Parliament within 6 months, failing which he will lose the ministership. So he has a saving clause, he has an escape clause. First you can elect him as the minister, then he is given the freedom to get elected in either House of Parliament. The Rajya Sabha is there, Lok Sabha is there, he can get himself elected in either House of Parliament, in which case he can continue as the minister. So that opening was also blocked. That is, a member from either House of Parliament disqualified on the ground of defection shall also be disqualified from becoming a minister as per Article 75 for Union Council of Ministers. Similarly, Article 164 was also amended to prevent a disqualified member of state legislature party from becoming a minister in the state government. So these two changes have been made. They cannot become a minister, they cannot hold a remunerative post till what time? Till the end of the tenure of the legislature, or till he is re-elected. This is the one. Secondly, the anti-defection law are conducted under the chairmanship of the Speaker or Chairman Rajya Sabha, and these proceedings are treated as internal proceedings of the House. Naturally, the validity of such proceedings cannot be questioned in any court of law. That means the proceedings under anti-defection law that is treated as internal proceedings of the Parliament, and therefore it cannot be questioned in any court of law. That means it gets the judicial immunity. This is a very important point. If the anti-defection law are against the Speaker, then in that case, remember, it will not automatically go to Deputy Speaker. The authority to proceed over the proceedings will not go to Deputy Speaker. Instead, the proceedings will be conducted by a member elected by the House. elected by the House. Even though the constitutional provisions under the anti-defection law provides that the decision of the Speaker is final and beyond judicial scrutiny. Nevertheless, most important point, Supreme Court in a case that is what is known as Holohan case in 1993 struck down this clause. Which clause? Section 7 of anti-defection law, which bars judicial scrutiny of the decision of the Speaker, which bars jurisdiction of the court to review the decision of the Speaker on disqualification. Supreme Court held this provision is unconstitutional for two reasons. One, judicial review is a basic structure. You cannot take away the basic structure. Secondly, the Speaker exercised the powers of on the defection as a judicial authority. It is she or he is exercising the judicial powers. Naturally, every tribunal which is exercising judicial powers is subjected to judicial review. So, naturally, under Article 226 by the High Court, under Article 136 by the Supreme Court, any decision under anti-defection law can be reviewed by the High Court and Supreme Court respectively. This is the decision of Supreme Court. So, naturally, this Section 7 has been made null and void. All the more, you should kindly appreciate this affects the state legislature also. So, under Article 368 of the Constitution, if there is anything affecting the composition of the House, composition of Parliament or composition of the state legislature, that constitutional amendment should get the ratification at least by half of the states. Unfortunately, this 52nd Amendment Act 1985 did not get the ratification by the states. Naturally, that is one more argument for the Supreme Court to nullify Section 7 of anti-defection law proceedings. Nevertheless, Supreme Court applied what is popularly known as doctrine of severability, and they disconnected Section 7. And Supreme Court said only this Section 7 is ultra vires to the Constitution, rest of the provisions are valid. That I remember to explain what is doctrine of severability and this also. And next class we will see what is the grey areas in anti-defection law. Thank you.